We are joined now by somebody who I am very excited to hear his take on this, because he has been one of the true warriors for real justice in this nation. Well, quite frankly, for as long as I've been following politics, the true man, myth and legend and warrior in our nation's capital, who've stood against the beast many, many times and against the Leviathan, now with the wind at his back, the great Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch joins the program live now. Tom, you're a very humble man, and so I'm not going to even say that stuff with you on camera, all right? Because I know it'd make you blush. So.
I think you can go on a few minutes, actually.
Okay. Yes, I've long awaited your take on this pick. Now, we've asked multiple times on the program in months past, what should a Trump attorney general do? And so the table is set. It's yours, Tom. Your take on the Matt Gaetz selection.
You know, I've always been asked, who should the attorney general should be? And I'd be like, I don't know. But I do know what attitude they need to have, right? And what approach they need to have. And no matter who it is, as long as they have the right approach, that's great. And so he had a lot of choices. And Gaetz fits into that mold of having the right approach, understanding, from my perspective, the dire threat to our constitutional republic from this compromised, conflicted, corrupted Justice Department that has spent not just the last 4 years, but I would argue the last almost 10 years trying to jail the regime's political opponent, the top political opponent, Donald Trump, through spying, sedition, conspiracy, smears, raids, gag orders. And as we see with the Secret Service fails, which in my view were purposeful, they literally were trying to get him killed, this regime. So someone like Matt Gaetz is the type of approach, he has the approach that's necessary to deal with this Justice Department. And all these senators, a vote for Matt Gaetz, that's just like the lowest possible bar for what's required. They need to not only support Matt Gaetz and whoever the Justice Department Attorney General is going to be from Trump, but also the reform effort. This Justice Department cannot continue in its current form. The FBI, I think, is irredeemably corrupt, and I don't think it can be saved. So we need the Congress to get on board not only with the appointments, but with supporting the rule of law and making sure these agencies are never able to do what they've done to this country ever again.
Something that was brought up in my timeline, I know I texted you about it, Tom, was I had totally memory hold the fact that you were raided, and that they came after you in these last couple of years. Can you unpack that in the context of the motivation, like a Matt Gaetz with the extortion scheme for $25 million run by the FBI against his family, that they had to drop the charges, right? They had to put people in prison for it. Like, what a good common cause motivation to have, as you are the victim of this government tyranny.
Yeah, I just tweeted out, I don't know if you saw the tweet, I want justice. I mean, I'm at home recovering from skin cancer. It was at the end of 2022, just before Smith was appointed. I get the knock at the door from the FBI, handing me a subpoena. Pure retaliation because Judicial Watch was blowing the whistle on their abuse of Trump, highlighting the fake charges they were bringing against him at the time. And we were literally suing the Justice Department. And I ended up having to go before the Jack Smith grand juries, faced 3 prosecutors as a witness, only as a witness. They didn't even want to talk to me informally. They pulled that invitation away as soon as Jack Smith came in, completely corrupt. And we spent 4 hours arguing politics before the grand jury. It was, as I've often said, it was like being on an MSNBC panel for 4 hours. But the point being, once you get a knock at the door from the FBI, every knock since, is that the FBI again? Is that the regime again? Yeah. And of course, I'm the head of Judicial Watch. I'm one of the most effective, largest government watchdog groups in the world, and they come after us. And watch if they went after the ACLU, or as you point out, the George Soros Foundation, for engaging in purely First Amendment protected activity. So I want justice. These folks can't be trusted to police a crosswalk, let alone manage law enforcement nationally for us. It's purely political. They're at best often incompetent, and at worst partisan and leftist. There are tens of thousands of James Comeys in the Justice Department, and if maybe they leave on their own. Otherwise, they should be doing Judicial Watch FOIA work. That's all they should be allowed to do.
This is one of, I think, the greatest strokes of genius in the Matt Gaetz decision, is that people will self-deport, for lack of a better term, from the Justice Department. And Matt Gaetz is like a smelling salt or cross to a vampire, holy water to these people. They're so elitist, and they're so smug, and they're so sneering at people like Matt Gaetz, who represents his district and Panhandle and represents populism. Tom, you know these people. They would never dare. Their blackened consciences would never allow them to answer to somebody like Matt Gaetz. They'll leave.
Did you see this Politico headline? It's like something you would have written, Benny.
We got it right
They
here.
said they're petrified, and this is literally the headline from Politico. You thought DOJ staffers were in full-blown freak-out before. Justice Department lawyers cannot compute that Matt Gaetz could be their new boss. They're now tracking your language in describing what Trump is doing to the deep state. And I tell you, I'm not just concerned about. I want to tell your listeners about this, and everyone in Trump world as well. I'm concerned about what they're doing now. If I were, first of all, Trump technically still is under investigation by this FBI and Justice Department. You can be sure, or I would guess, based on what they did last time, that they're concocting, if not already proceeding, with sham charge investigations against him and people around him. And no matter who is the attorney general, they're going to try to set up circumstances to force criminal investigations, special counsel crises and such, to target Trump, his family, and important folks in Trump world like Elon Musk. These folks won't go away, and that's why you need someone who is from the get-go going to say, I'm not playing your game, and I'm shutting it down wherever I see the abuse immediately. Because typically the AG for Republicans are institutionalists, right? They're conservative in the bad sense of the word. We need reformers and house cleaners.
Yes, I will. I didn't really quite understand what was happening at the time, Tom, when I watched Jeff Sessions recuse himself without seeing any evidence for Russiagate. He just said, because he drank Smirnoff vodka one time in college, that was enough to force a recusal based on just the din, the banging of the cymbals of Washington, D.C. media. That's weakness, and it can't be tolerated any longer.
And remember, it was his deputy who shepherded through this anti-Trump effort. And Trump needs to be sure he's not appointing any seditionists, because that's what happened last time. There are folks he appointed and he was working with on a day-to-day basis that engaged in casual sedition against what his wishes were as the only elected president of the United States, in terms of the sense of whose views counted and should have been followed.
Yes. So, Tom, as somebody who I think off the top here, I can safely say endorses Matt Gaetz in this selection and would like to see this pushed through, and you have a lot of pull in the Senate, obviously, and great respect.
Yeah. It's an inspired choice, Betty. It's an inspired choice.
You also share common cause with Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz, as you have been a victim of Jack Smith and lawfare over the last 4 years. And so I'd love to hear, what would you like to see happen to Jack Smith now that he's resigning in disgrace and his office is being boarded up at the very moment? Would you like to see an investigation into his practices?
Jack Smith and all the other abusers at the Justice Department and the FBI and other agencies should be investigated for the quite evident abuses of power they engaged in to target Trump. When you use your power to target a citizen and use the color of law to try to deprive them of their civil rights, that's a crime. And that's the type of investigation that should proceed against the Justice Department. And frankly, Matt Gaetz, the Justice Department shouldn't be investigating itself. If I were President Trump, I would appoint a special counsel that reports to him only to investigate the deep state Justice Department and have Matt put the yellow tape around the department headquarters to mark it as a crime scene.
I know you know Matt well. I'm not going to ask you to obviously reveal anything that's private, but what would you like to see Matt Gaetz do once confirmed in the Senate? And I see this confirmation process. I mean, if Matt Gaetz goes up there and performs, I think he's going to get it. I think all this doomsaying of, 20 Republican senators are going to vote against him. No, bro, we have you on the record voting for Merrick Garland. This is the last vote you'll ever take in your political life if you vote against Matt Gaetz and for Merrick Garland. So I think Trump has him over a barrel. I think Gaetz will be confirmed. What do you want to see happen?
What I want to see happen is transparency and accountability. I want the Justice Department to be severely curtailed in terms of its power and size. I want the FBI to be checked in ways so that it's never a threat to the public again. And if it means basically pawning off its various function to other agencies, I would. I would not rely on Justice Department employees in Washington, the civil servant bureaucracy to accomplish any of this. This has to be an outsider game. The Justice Department thinks it's above the law. It thinks it's outside the power and control of the White House and the presidency. And, it's interesting. I remember talking to a senior White House official during the Trump years, and not someone who, one of the folks who went anti-Trump, right? And he said to me, you know what, Tom, one of these things we need to do after this is all over, we need to bring the Justice Department back inside our government. And what a good insight that was. However far off the reservation he went subsequently. But that's the way the Justice Department operates. They pretend that they're not subject to constitutional authorities of the president, and they need to be disabused of that notion.
Yes. You've seen those. I mean, we've watched them together. You've seen these sneering congressional testimonies of Christopher Wray. Sorry, got to leave on my private jet you all pay for, right? Don't have time for you. You can see the behavior when Matt Gaetz, here's one of the most viral clips we've ever published, Tom, is Matt Gaetz talking about the Hunter Biden laptop with the head of cyber at the FBI. And the head of cyber at the FBI is like, F you. You're not allowed to ask about that. I'm not going to answer any questions about that. That behavior is despicable. That is not the way our system's designed.
Yeah, and he's got to open up the books, right? Open up the files. I mean, we fight the Justice Department to get the time of the day from the Justice Department. They're so secretive, and he's got to take a different approach. And we all know what the deep state said. Oh, you can't open this up. We won't be able to investigate and abuse anyone else again in the future. Well, that's an endorsement to open it all up. And we faced challenges with the first Trump administration under Sessions and then Barr getting information out of the Justice Department. And let's hope that ends now. And they finally understand that transparency is the friend of reform.
Yes. I mean, why would you protect the world's foremost pederast? Why? In what universe are we? What? Give me a moral rationale as to why the American public shouldn't see every name on the Epstein list and every name on the Diddy tapes. Give me a rationale.
We were in court in the first Trump administration, and his appointees over at the State Department and Justice Department would come in. These were people that pretended to work for Trump but ignored his views, and they came in and said everything Hillary did on the emails was fine.
Is fine, meaning it was legal?
Yeah, and that Judicial Watch should not get anything.
Really? So they argued against you.
They argued,
to protect Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, the Trump and State Department and Justice Department are, basically argue with us, and they defended Hillary. Was just something that I know probably set Trump off. But that's the reality he understood was happening, right? Yeah. And he's trying to change that with appointees like Matt Gaetz. And I tell you, between Tulsi, Matt, and Pete, each one deserves an hour discussion about how significant and historic the appointments are. Pete is the most significant appointment in the history of the agency. And I think Matt fairly can be put into that category for DOJ. Tulsi she's going to be bringing down the house in terms of her skepticism of the deep state and the intelligence community. I mean, these folks have tried to destroy our republic. They've attacked our sitting president. I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat. It should concern you when the elected president becomes victimized and targeted and undermined by the bureaucratic mandarins that think they know it all. And as far as they're concerned, they don't even want elections. I mean, we kind of saw that with the coup cabal with Biden. They didn't want a primary, and sick. I mean, heck, there's still election counting still going on in these left-wing states.
Yeah. I call it a revival of the American spirit. And Tom,
it's a restoration. It's the restoration of the republic if we work it right.
So, Tom, you've been on the right side of this, fighting a very lonely battle at times, quite frankly, standing up against the Leviathan, and the Leviathan came for you, and you won, Tom. So it's awesome. Everybody follow Tom over here. One of these days, I'm going to join Tom's gym, okay, and I'll be able to get a flex like this, and everybody go follow. I mean, 2.8 million. We're going to get to 3 by Christmas, Tom.
That's right. And congratulations to you. You've really come into your own. And it just shows you that when you tell the truth and you're persistent and you're consistent and you try to do more and better of what people want, the rewards come. People are thirsting for leadership, Benny. And, you're bringing it. Charlie's bringing it. Bannon's bringing it. You don't have to be in politics to provide the leadership. I mean, Judicial Watch, we have millions of supporters. I just love it.
And here's Tom's book, Rights and Freedoms in
It's a great book. It's a great book. If you want to know what Trump needs to do, read it. It's a great book.
There we go. You find it everywhere. Tom, you are the man and the OG, and we're thankful to call you friend. Godspeed, sir.
Thank you, Benny. God bless you. Thank you.